Invincible Flow+Smooth Upgrade+Genius Flow+Fast Rhythm. Wudang Mountain has a profound heritage, and Zhang Sanfeng is as powerful as any other land immortal with his unparalleled power. However, everything changed after Chen Xiaofan joined in. You watched Zhang Sanfeng demonstrate Tai Chi divine skill and captured its essence. After some thought, you refined the core and comprehended Tai Chi infinite skill. Your second viewing of Tai Chi divine skill, Jiehe Tai Chi infinite skill, you created Tai Chi infinite Qiankuan skill. Your third time watching Tai Chi divine skill, Jiehe Tai Chi infinite Qiankuan skill, you have created the great Zhou Tian Tai Chi skill. Your fourth time watching Tai Chi divine skill, Jiehe de Zhou Tian Tai Chi skill, you have created the highest internal mental technique of Tai Chi. As your understanding deepens, you discover the flaws in Tai Chi divine skill. You identify and fill in the gaps, eliminate the flaws in Tai Chi supreme internal mind technique, and improve the effect due to your incredible understanding. You continued to think deeply and successfully created a flawless Tai Chi supreme internal mind technique, greatly improving its effectiveness. Zhang Sanfeng glanced at you and was shocked by your internal strength. You have gained land immortal level Qi luck, and your Qi luck has increased. Chapter 1. Time travels every year, it's my turn this year. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ha ha ha. Time flies year by year, it's my turn this year. On a rainy night, lightning flashed and thunder roared, and the heavy rain flowed like a flood. In an unknown mountain forest, a slightly childish voice rang out. The child, dressed in white, stood in the heavy rain, looking around with a confused expression. After a moment of confusion, he said this sentence. He had just arrived in this world, and after organizing his memories, he found himself traveling and becoming a 7-year-old boy. His name is Chen Xiaofan, and his parents have both died since childhood. He is an orphan. This is a world where many martial arts novels blend together, with numerous sects and imperial dynasties, including the Palace of Moving Flowers, Wudang Mountain, Qingqing sect. Including the Great Qin, Great Han, and Great Ming. Having understood his background, Chen Xiaofan was immediately overjoyed. This is a safe starting point for the protagonist. Do you see that many protagonists in novels have their parents dead, and very few have their parents still alive? However, just as Chen Xiaofan thought he was about to embarrass himself and reach the pinnacle of his life, suddenly a fierce lion roar came from deep in the mountains and forests. Roar. The terrifying roar of a lion is even more astonishing than lightning, echoing through the mountains and forests. The lion is the king of all beasts, more terrifying than a fierce tiger. The next moment, Chen Xiaofan heard a strong and powerful sound of footsteps approaching him. The lion has discovered me. Chen Xiaofan's face changed. Oh no, I'm only 7 years old and I don't have the strength to bind a chicken. Can't I become a lion's feast? Are you about to die as soon as you cross over? Ding! At this moment, a voice rang out in my mind. You have gained the favor of chaos, received the blessings of chaos true God, and gained the ability to transcend the heavens. Here we go. System. Standard configuration for travelers. Chen Xiaofan was instantly overjoyed. In just a moment, he understood what supernatural intelligence is. My own intelligence is fully developed, and I can learn anything at a glance. Even a peerless demon cannot match me. Suddenly, a lion roar rang out from deep in the mountains and forests. Roar. The roar was louder and louder than before, as if the lion had become extremely excited to discover its prey. Meanwhile, the footsteps were getting closer and closer. As you listened to the roar of the lion, you realized the true meaning behind it, and then deciphered the lion roar technique, comprehending the lion roar skill. Roar. 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 The roar of a lion approached from afar, flowing incessantly and deafening. The lion seems to be getting more and more excited. Due to your second time listening to the lion roar, Jiehe lion roar technique, you created the diamond lion roar technique. Due to your third time listening to the lion roar, Jia and Vitra lion roar skill, you created the lion heart king roar skill. Due to your fourth time listening to the lion roar, Jia and the lion heart king roar skill, you created the diamond lion heart king roar skill. My goodness, this understanding is just one word. Strong. Bully. Chen Xiaofan straightened his chest and smiled all over his face. In the next blink of an eye, a shadow was reflected in his pupils, and a huge black shadow from a row of big trees in the distance quickly passed by. His figure was agile and perfect, unparalleled. A natural hunter, incredibly powerful. Almost in an instant, a huge lion with shiny fur appeared in front of Chen Xiaofan, charging towards him with open teeth and claws. At the critical moment, Chen Xiaofan opened his mouth and uttered a word. Roar. It's the Diamond Lion Heart King Roar technique. With a loud bang, the lion was like being hit by an invisible meteorite. Its massive body flew backwards, knocking down an entire row of trees and piercing through the mountain, forming a huge hole. It roared across and fell to the back of the mountain, disappearing without a trace. Chen Xiaofan was slightly taken aback. I didn't expect that the King of Diamond Lion's Heart Roar technique was so powerful. With just one strike, the lion was completely shaken and disappeared. He quickly chased after him, wanting to see how badly the lion was shaken. After a moment, on the back of the mountain, at the foot, Chen Xiaofan looked from afar and saw the lion bleeding from its 7 orifices, lying limp on the ground, almost like a puddle of meat. There is also a group of people in white next to them, discussing and discussing. Hiss. Who made the move and actually beat this lion like this? What's going on? I saw this lion yesterday, and I almost died at its hands. Who is so brave? One of them touched it and suddenly lost his voice, saying, "It's so terrifying. I don't know where the opponent's master is, but he even shattered the bones of this lion." Suddenly, a row of neat and uniform sounds of gasping for breath were heard on the scene. Hiss. Terrifying. This skill must at least be at the level of a great master. What? Grand Master. Oh my goodness. Surprisingly, there is a powerful master nearby. Oh my goodness, we are fortunate enough to see such a master take action. Chen Xiaofan only then realized that the roar just now was as powerful as the great master. According to the memory in my mind, the realm of Kyushu continent is divided into 3 categories. Third rate, second rate, first class, acquired, innate, master, great master, and land deity. Each realm is divided into 5 sub-realms. Early stage, middle stage, late stage, great fullness, peak, and 5 sub-realms. Moreover, it seems that this King of Diamond Lion's Heart Roar skill does not require internal power, and can be unleashed with enough chi in its mouth. At this moment, the first person in white to speak up said, "Alright, let's forget about this lion for now and continue our conversation." Others clasped their fists and said, "Senior brother, please speak up." The man in white took out a folding fan and casually blew his long hair. He smiled faintly and said, "Hee hee, isn't it just flying with a sword? What's the difficulty of this? Just step on it with a sword, and then do this and that again, can you fly?" As you listened to the flying of the Imperial Sword, you captured the true essence of it, and then analyzed the flying skills, comprehending the Immortal technique. Flying with the Imperial Sword. Chen Xiaofan's eyes widened. Cow, truly full of understanding. But senior brother, it's easy for you to say, but what should we do? Yes, senior brother, what you said is too profound. We have a dull talent and can't understand it at all. Could you please give us a demonstration, senior brother? Those people crowded around the people in white, saying with utmost respect. They were just discussing here how to fly with a sword, which has always been their dream. The man in white continued to swing his folding fan and said with a mysterious smile, "You also admit that your talent is dull. Since your talent is dull, even if I demonstrate it, you won't understand it. Chen Xiaofan muttered softly, bully. What? The man in white moved his ears and immediately turned his head to find a 7-year-old child not far away. He suddenly became a little angry and said, "What are you talking about? I'm bragging. If you have the ability, you can explain it." Others looked at Chen Xiaofan one after another, not understanding what this 7-year-old child knew. How dare they question their senior brother? How dare you question our senior brother? If you have the ability, please prove yourself. Yeah, you can go ahead. If you don't prove yourself today, don't think about leaving. Just 7 years old, I see what you can prove. There is a lot of discussion. Chen Xiaofan smiled slightly and said, "Flying with the imperial sword is indeed simple, but just talking is not a fake move. I'll show you directly." Speaking, Chen Xiaofan directly drew out the sword in his hand, which was already present on his body. The sword was 3 feet long and had a sharp edge. With a movement of his wrist, his long sword immediately hung under his feet, and then he leapt forward, sending a white light through the air and flying into the sky. Wow! There was an instant commotion at the scene. Can we fly now? It really looks so simple. Wait, he's only 7 years old. Can he fly with a sword at the age of 7? Strange and strange, prodigy. Prodigy. Master, he was stunned and stunned. He doesn't know how to fly with a sword at all, he's just bragging today. In the world of martial arts, how can one fly with a sword? Although there are indeed such divine beings, they only exist in legends. He opened his mouth in a daze, his tongue almost sticking out. Chen Xiaofan flew a big circle, then made a round trip, and then didn't even look at them. He just skimmed over the mountain and flew towards the distance with ease. He is too lazy to deal with these frogs in the well. Chen Xiaofan plans to fly to Wudang Mountain and become a disciple of the land god Zhang Sanfeng. Although there is nothing bad about the world of martial arts, it would be even better if one could cultivate immortality. Since I have even mastered the immortal technique, why bother fighting? I cultivate immortality in martial arts, and I am infinitely stronger than others. As a major martial arts sect in the Central Plains, Wudang Mountain has a magnificent terrain and must have spiritual energy. If one comprehends the method of becoming an immortal there, they can absorb spiritual energy on the spot, transform into immortals, and become immortals. Thinking, Chen Xiaofan broke through the air and left with a rainbow-like momentum. Only a series of screams of surprise were left along the way. After just a few breaths of flying, it has already crossed hundreds of miles. This speed, even driving in a previous life would take an hour. It still needs to be on the highway. Suddenly, Chen Xiaofan saw something and his eyes suddenly lit up. Old driver, very stable, rest assured to add bookshelves. Chapter 2. 2 Exquisite Swordsmanships with a special collection of pathways. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Below is a wilderness with pleasant scenery and unique beauty. On a large blue stone, 2 middle-aged men were chopping at each other. They are incredibly burly, one dressed in blue and the other in purple, each holding a long sword. The sword rises and falls, shining brightly, and they fight back and forth with exquisite precision. There are still many people standing around, shoulder to shoulder, with heavy shadows. Those people watched the fight between the 2 men and occasionally exclaimed in admiration. Good. Good swordsmanship. Good swordsmanship. You two are both good swordsmanship, it really fills our eyes. If we can learn your swordsmanship, even our ancestors' graves will be filled with smoke. Chen Xiaofan's heart moved and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. Isn't it a pity not to comprehend such exquisite swordsmanship? Although we already have the Diamond Lion Heart King Roar technique that rivals that of a great master, our skills are not overwhelming. Thinking in his heart, he fell into the distance with a swoop and walked over without being noticed by anyone who could fly. The reason for this is not to let those two people continue to shock themselves and stop fighting. And it's too high in the air to see clearly. Bang bang bang. There was a sound of you chopping and chopping in the distance, and sparks were splashing everywhere. It was truly an exquisite martial art. Chen Xiaofan desperately squeezed into the crowd, but due to his small size, he easily squeezed into the front row. The adults around him, looking at his children, also deliberately let him down. Some people even say, "This child is small and mischievous, let him go ahead and see the world." Quickly, Chen Xiaofan took a smooth glance and in an instant, his mind had already understood. As you watch the flying snow sword, you realize the essence of it. Through some thinking, you can extract the essence and understand the flying snow sword. As you watch the Hu family's sword technique, you realize the essence of it. Through some thinking, you can extract the essence and understand the dragon scale sword technique. Due to your incredible intelligence, you attempted to merge the two sword techniques and ultimately learned from each other's strengths and weaknesses, successfully merging them to create the flying snow dragon scale sword technique. Due to your incredible intelligence, after integrating two swordsmanship techniques, you are not satisfied with the current situation. Instead, you delve deeper into your thinking and try to comprehend stronger swordsmanship techniques. Eventually, your swordsmanship is promoted, forming a brand new swordsmanship skill. The Phoenix Sword Technique. Do you have the Phoenix Sword Technique? Chen Xiaofan was taken aback and then ecstatic. Such a graceful name, you can tell at a glance that its combat power exceeds the standard. However, does this swordsmanship require internal power? Continue to think. Due to your incredible intelligence, after creating the Phoenix Sword Technique, you continue to think deeply and successfully created a Phoenix Sword Technique that does not require internal power stimulation, and your power has increased strong. With such insight, Chen Xiaofan can only say that he has gained insight. At this moment, a mournful scream of, "Ah," came from ahead. Following closely, the crowd erupted into an exclamation of surprise. The winner has been decided. Chen Xiaofan glanced sideways and saw the man in blue lying on the ground, with a big cut in his body. And the sword in his hand had also been broken in two, indicating a great defeat. I lost. The Hu family's swordsmanship is truly incredible, and I am willing to call you the strongest. The man in blue said out of breath. The man in purple laughed and lifted his chest high, feeling quite happy. He looked around and asked, "Did everyone see it? How's it going? Is my Hu family's swordsmanship powerful?" As if afraid that everyone wouldn't hear him, he raised his tone and said, "Tell me, is my Hu family's swordsmanship strong?" Strong. Very strong. Overwhelming strength. The crowd erupted in bursts of exclamation, and everyone admired the man in purple. Even some people can't help but offer gifts and hug their thighs. Ha ha ha. Our Hu family's swordsmanship is a famous swordsmanship. What kind of drifting snow swordsmanship is simply garbage, waste. The man in purple laughed heartily, looking at the man in blue on the ground with high toes and an air full of energy. The man in blue blushed and remained silent. If one's skills are inferior to others, they will say anything for nothing. Chen Xiaofan pursed his lips, but that's all. The man in purple suddenly noticed Chen Xiaofan and raised his eyebrows coldly. How could someone disdain this? That kid, what's going on with your expression? What are you looking at? I just curled my lips, what are you excited about? Chen Xiaofan didn't answer, but asked in reverse. Suddenly, the man in purple's face drooped and he said in a deep voice, "My swordsmanship is unparalleled, and everyone has seen it. What do you have to show off?" That's it. Suddenly, a bystander stood up and said, "Master whose swordsmanship is obvious to all, very powerful. Even the snowy sword technique is not his opponent. Can't you see it?" Someone immediately said, "Go ahead, that's your fault. He's just a child, what can he understand?" That's right, it's just a child. What can I understand? I actually have the same understanding as a child. The person shook his head. He didn't have the same understanding as Chen Xiaofan, but the man in purple didn't intend to let Chen Xiaofan go. The man in purple gritted his teeth and snorted coldly, "You haven't explained to me what you're pouting at yet. The way you pout, it's like my swordsmanship is trash. I'm holding my breath in my heart and feeling very unhappy. What if it's very unpleasant?" Chen Xiaofan raised his head and looked straight at him. "Ha, good." The man in purple laughed angrily and swung his sword fiercely. Boom! A sword light slashed towards his feet, and with a loud bang, a 2-meter thick green stone was split open on the spot, exploding in half. The broken cross-dot section is very neat. Okay. As soon as experts make a move, they know if there is one. The Hu family's swordsmanship truly lives up to its reputation. A group of onlookers cheered one after another. "How are you, powerful?" The man in purple looked at Chen Xiaofan again. "You know, this is a stone that is 2 meters thick, taller than an adult. It's amazing to be able to split it." However, Chen Xiaofan only smiled faintly and then pursed his lips. "What? How unreasonable." The confident man in purple froze on his face and said in a deep voice, "My swordsmanship is so powerful. Are you blind and unable to see?" He is already in a hurry and his anger is unforgivable. The other party questioned his swordsmanship twice in a row, which made him angry and eager to prove himself. In front of so many people, he can't hold his pride. Just as he was about to strike another sword, he was suddenly grabbed by someone. "Wait, Brother Hu, what are you arguing about with a child? He hasn't even changed his teeth, but he's only 7 years old. Why do you need to?" This is a scholar in white, with a dignified appearance and an upright and unparalleled face, making one feel like basking in spring breeze. Unexpectedly, the man in purple became even angrier, pounding his chest and feet fiercely, staring intently at Chen Xiaofan and shouting, "Little thing, is my swordsmanship really strong?" Chen Xiaofan stopped pouting this time and chuckled, "Cut." In an instant, the man in purple exploded directly. "Ah ah ah. Ah ah ah. You little kid who hasn't even grown hair, why do you question me? If you have the guts, I'll see if you strike a sword." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone around immediately began to persuade. "Hu Gongzi, why are you doing this? He's just a child, and as you can see, he hasn't changed his teeth. Maybe he's just lip-syncing here. You don't need to have the same opinion as him." "Yes, Master Hu, we all know that your Hu family's swordsmanship is unparalleled. He's just a little kid, and he's worth your anger. He's only 7 years old. What kind of swordsmanship can he learn? Aren't you making things difficult for the child?" The man in purple roared with open teeth and claws, "No way. He must strike a sword today for me to see, otherwise he won't want to leave here." Chen Xiaofan said calmly, "All right, it was you who asked me to take action. Don't be so scared that you'll stand still." Chapter 3. One sword startles the 4 directions. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Xiaofan felt that this person was also exceptional. He just smiled casually and then he got into a fight with him. If this glass heart were placed in modern society, wouldn't it be possible to kill someone? What are you bragging about? If I'm scared and stand still, I'll give you 3 slaps on the spot. The man in purple refused. The other party is just a 7-year-old doll, can they still scare themselves with a single sword? Don't blow the cowhide to the sky. Chen Xiaofan was too lazy to say much. He slowly drew his sword and unsheathed it with one strike. Suddenly, everyone's pupils dilated. Bang! I saw a sword coming from the west, like a flying fairy from outside the sky. Extremely fast, like a thunderbolt in the sky, piercing through the sky and illuminating the night. The sword light flashed away, illuminating everyone's eyes and slashing fiercely towards the distance. Click. The vast earth has produced vibrations. Terrifying ripples spread from all directions on the land beneath my feet. The earth suddenly cracked open, thick smoke billowed, flying sand and stones. What? Everyone was stunned, standing in a daze, forgetting to breathe. What swordsmanship is this? How could there be such terrifying power? That sword flew by, and the sky seemed to be illuminated, shining like the moon in a flash. The man in purple clothes was stunned as he stared at the sword, his wrist trembling in disbelief. I even feel my brain buzzing and unable to calm down. My feet are shaking, the air is solidifying, and my face is gradually becoming hot. How is this sword? Chen Xiaofan collected it and sheathed it, pursed his lips, and said lightly. This pursing is for oneself. Due to the first use of the Yufeng Lai sword technique, it was somewhat unfamiliar and its power was not even half that of the original. If one becomes proficient and performs normally, the man in purple must not be scared to death on the spot. The man in purple was speechless with dementia. Finally, a long time later, he let out a strange cry. Oh my goodness! A sentence startled the dreamer, and everyone finally realized. They looked in shock and saw a huge ravine, like a moat, about 3 meters wide and 20 meters long. It was extremely terrifying. If there is water, this is almost a real moat. Hiss. With just one sword, it's so amazing. I can't believe it, it's strange. Such a dazzling sword, I have lived my whole life and have never seen it before. I'm afraid it's already surpassed the 7 heroes of Wudang. Even if the 7 heroes of Wudang come, they might have convulsions. Wait, is this person a disciple of Zhang Sanfeng? Everyone was amazed. Everyone has a silly big mouth, it's hard to believe their own eyes. A sword, at most only 3 feet long, apart from a heavy sword, yet beneath this sword, how could such a huge moat be forcefully cleaved? I can't believe it. If it weren't for what I saw with my own eyes, I really wouldn't believe it. The scholar in white was also completely stunned, completely unaware that this child was so strong. Just now, the man in purple only split open a big stone with his sword, but what about his sword? Don't compare, don't know, compare, don't see. Pop it. The man in purple suddenly knelt down on the ground, his hands facing up, and arched his hands, saying, I am willing to accept defeat. I am willing to accept defeat. Just now, I was blind and saw the wrong person. I will kowtow to you now. Although this person has a hot temper, he is also sincere and really kowtowed to Chen Xiaofan. Bang! 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 After blinking and knocking his head 3 times, the person stood up and said, 1 yard, 1 yard. Your sword just now was indeed stronger than mine, but to be honest, the most powerful technique of our Hu family is not swordsmanship, but boxing. Usually, this boxing technique is not easy to show off to others, but now, forget it. He threw away the long sword in his hand, and suddenly a strong and domineering momentum erupted from all over his body. Oh! Did you have another unique skill delivered to your door? Chen Xiaofan was secretly pleased and nodded repeatedly. Chapter 4. Reacquainted again, the shocking purple-clothed man. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The man in purple took a deep breath and forcefully stepped down. With a loud explosion, the ground beneath my feet suddenly exploded, and the smoke billowed. Then, he sprinted out with one swift step and punched a tree. That tree is a century-old tree, with an incredibly thick trunk that even 10 adult men can't hold. A towering tree with huge leaves blocking the sky and sun. Boom! The man in purple punched the old tree fiercely, causing it to tremble and then explode from root to leaf, turning into flying ash in an instant. What? Hiss! Oh my goodness! What kind of boxing is this? Everyone's scalp is numb, making unacceptable screams. That tree, they have tried it before, but even their leader may not be able to take it. They come from the Vajra sect, majoring in martial arts, the most powerful. But now it seems that Hu Gongzi's martial arts have completely surpassed the strongest martial arts of their sect. As you watched the Hu family's unique technique, the explosive fist, and captured its intricacies, after some contemplation, you refined the core and comprehended the thunder whale explosive fist. Chen Xiaofan's mouth slightly raised. The man in purple exploded the big tree, cheered up and punched out again. Boom. 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 One big tree after another exploded into fragments from roots to leaves. Within a few breaths, he pushed all the big trees around him horizontally, leaving no one behind. Then he closed his fist and stood, his energy sinking into the dantian, his entire movement flowing smoothly and silky. However, what he didn't know was, due to your second viewing of Burst Fist, Jieha Thunder Whale Burst Fist, you created Thunder Burst Fist. Due to your third viewing of Burst Fist, Jia and Lei Ming Thunder Burst Fist, you created the Snow Rain Piercing Cloud Thunder Burst Fist. Due to your fourth viewing of Burst Fist, Jia and Shui, you created the Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and Thunder Fist. As your understanding deepens, you discover the flaws in the explosive fist. You fill in the gaps and eliminate the flaws in the Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and Thunder Fist, enhancing its power. Chen Xiaofan's mouth curled up again, watching the performance of the man in purple with great interest. The man in purple still had to plant trees, but there were no more trees around him, so he had to give up. But still with an expression of still wanting more. He turned his head and asked, "Hey, little one, how is my martial arts? Is it powerful?" Chen Xiaofan did not answer, but said, "This boxing technique is powerful and incredibly powerful, almost worthy of being called the Little Dragon Claw of Shaolin Temple. It is most suitable for using evil to control evil and violence to control violence, but unfortunately, it has a fatal weakness." What? Fatal weakness? The man in purple was startled and immediately gritted his teeth, saying, "What weakness?" This weakness is that it needs to be practiced from a young age. For 20 years, one can only practice this martial art every day, and nothing else can be practiced. Otherwise, one will become obsessed with it, and only men can practice it, while women can waste one. People are curious, and it's impossible to only practice this martial arts for 20 years. Therefore, there are many who have become obsessed with it. As far as I know, you just practiced swordsmanship. Based on your proficiency in swordsmanship just now, you should have been practicing that swordsmanship for no less than 10 years. You are now almost on the brink of becoming obsessed with it. The man in purple was greatly shocked. He frowned tightly. These are all secrets of my Hu family. How does this little doll know? Moreover, he said it so accurately. Can it be said that his intelligence is extremely terrifying, and he could infer these things solely by inference? Not bad. By chance, the ancestors of the Hu family obtained a fragmented copy of Shaolin Dragon Claw Hand. It cannot be practiced on its own because if Shaolin knows about it, they will not be able to come knocking on it. Under no other circumstances, the ancestors of the Hu family spent a lot of money to hire a mysterious expert to revise the manual, and forcibly change the remaining Dragon Claw Hand into a boxing technique. But its essence remains unchanged. Powerful and powerful, incredibly strong. It can be said that this boxing technique originated from Shaolin Dragon Claw Hand, and in a sense, it is not an exaggeration to call it Little Dragon Claw Hand. Everyone else looked shocked and dumbfounded at Chen Xiaofan. They knew they had heard a big secret today, and it turned out that the Hu family had martial arts comparable to Shaolin. Shaolin's Dragon Claw Hand is unparalleled in strength, but now the Hu family also has a simplified version. If the wind blows, the martial arts world will cause a bloody storm. Major sects dare not take action against Shaolin, but not necessarily against the Hu family. Don't talk about what you have or don't have, just say that you can strike a stronger fist than mine. The man in purple gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice. The other party revealed their secret in just a few words, and it was expected that the group of onlookers around them were not fools, so they could definitely guess the clues. We need to shift the topic. In fact, he is even more afraid of revealing his identity. He is the adopted son of Hui Dao who has been exiled and cannot reveal his identity due to being chased. And the swordsmanship just now was also an improvement of the Hu family swordsmanship, becoming the Hu family swordsmanship. Chen Xiaofan said, "Sure." He clenched his right hand into a fist, and suddenly a crackling sound of bones rang out. There seemed to be thunder and lightning roaring in the center of the fist, and the knuckles erupted with a thunderous explosion, like an explosion, and the sound shook like thunder. A series of lightning arcs gradually filled the entire fist, emitting a sizzling sound of electricity. The onlookers around were all stunned. What kind of fist technique is this, surprisingly so brilliant? The man in purple was also stunned, but Chen Xiaofan didn't wait for him to recover before punching the ground. Boom. Boom 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 boom. Centered around Chen Xiaofan, the earth collapsed on the spot, with spider web-like cracks opening up and rapidly spreading, reaching hundreds of feet away in the blink of an eye. Surrounded by flying sand and rocks, thick smoke rises everywhere, and arcs flicker in the air, especially glaring in the night. Everyone felt as if their feet were shaking, and they hurriedly jumped away, only to find that their legs and feet were weak and they fell directly. After several breaths, the shock disappeared, and everyone was shocked to find that the entire ground had collapsed, forming a terrifying crater. Looking around, within a radius of 100 zhang, the earth is fractured, with protrusions in all directions, creating a basin that contrasts with it. I am sitting slumped in the crater, trembling all over. This meteorite crater is tens of meters deep, it is simply an inhumane force. The man in purple slammed his hands together and clasped his fists, saying, "Your Majesty is as strong as you are. Hu Pei is willing to bow down." He had never seen such a powerful fist technique even with that mysterious expert. Even he had some doubts, whether the person in front of him was a reincarnation of a master, but it was too impossible. No, this punch is not playing properly, only exerting 1/3 of its power, Chen Xiaofan suddenly said. Ah! Suddenly, everyone was shocked and pale. Has the performance gone wrong? So terrifying the destructive power, but you say it's not working properly. How terrifying would the destructive power be if it were to function properly? Someone turned their head and glanced at the edge of the crater, which looked like a circular crater around them. They couldn't help but shiver hard and feel a chill from behind. Such a profound and unpredictable boxing technique would be unimaginable if it hadn't been performed improperly, truly unimaginable. Terrifying. We all underestimated him. A series of exclamations echoed in the field. Pop it. The man in purple knelt down again and clasped his fists, saying, "Your skills are extraordinary and powerful. I earnestly request that you accept me as your disciple." Chapter 5. Boosting Martial Arts Proficiency and Boosting Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If the man in purple clothes was very dissatisfied just now and didn't believe that Chen Xiaofan could fight a boxing technique stronger than him, but now he is completely convinced. Chen Xiaofan is not only stronger in swordsmanship than him, but also in boxing. Moreover, he is outstanding and incredibly powerful. This convinced him from the bottom of his heart. Even yearning for the other party to take him as an apprentice. This is the greatest recognition of Chen Xiaofan's strength. Forget it, I'm still young and not suitable for apprenticeship, Chen Xiaofan shook his head and said. To be honest, when he heard that the other party was actually going to worship him as his teacher, Chen Xiaofan couldn't help but laugh and cry. Where is a 7-year-old master? If we really take him away, what should outsiders think when they go out? I don't know, but I thought he was a master and I was an apprentice. The most crucial thing is that I want to go to Wudang Mountain to worship Zhang Sanfeng as my teacher, and I don't want to bring any more dragging oil bottles. This doesn't seem appropriate. Okay then, said the man in purple with a slightly disappointed voice. After chatting with everyone present for a while, Chen Xiaofan said goodbye and left. He doesn't intend to waste any more time here. A sword was raised in the wind as Chen Xiaofan stepped onto it, and with a swoop, a white light flew up into the sky. Suddenly, screams of surprise came from behind. After flying for half an hour, Chen Xiaofan landed by a clear pond. Now it's far away from those people, and this place is empty and uninhabited, making it a great place to practice martial arts. To be honest, he doesn't want to only unleash 1/3 of his power, so he must practice and improve his martial arts proficiency. Although my intelligence is unparalleled and I can easily master martial arts at a glance, my hands are still a bit rusty and I still need to practice them for a while or two. It's like knowing everything in your mind, but your body coordination can't keep up, and you need to be familiar with it. After making up his mind, Chen Xiaofan clenched his long sword and began practicing. That's right, he plans to practice the Yufeng Lai swordsmanship first. Although the wind, cloud, thunder, and explosive fist is powerful, it is not as handsome as the sword. Usually, swords are more commonly used. Shua. With a single sword strike, the fallen leaves were flying profusely, and the shimmering sword light was like a vast expanse of stars falling into the sky for 9 days, magnificent and magnificent. The sword technique of Yufeng Lai is much more magnificent compared to the previous drifting snow sword technique and the Hu family sword technique. The drifting snow sword technique and the Hu family sword technique are not glamorous, they emphasize practicality and have tremendous power. As a fusion of two sword techniques, the Phoenix sword technique not only has power, but also has grandeur. Gradually, Chen Xiaofan began to sweat profusely. After about 1 cup of tea. Through practice, you become more and more familiar with the Yufeng Lai swordsmanship, become more proficient, and successfully reach the level of perfection, 100%. Not bad, you can. Chen Xiaofan's face was flushed. I thought it would take some time, but I didn't expect to fill up my proficiency so quickly. Then he took advantage of the heat and continued to practice the wind, cloud, thunder, and blast fist. This thunderstorm fist is derived from the little dragon claw hand, but its power is much more powerful than the little dragon claw hand, which can be said to be stronger and more powerful, like adding wings to a tiger. With a punch, the air was exploding and the waves twisted. With lightning on his fist, he made a thunderous roar, terrifying to the extreme. After a cup of tea. Through practice, you become more and more familiar with the wind, cloud, thunder, and blast fist, and your proficiency increases. You have successfully reached the level of perfection, 100%. Chen Xiaofan wiped away the hot sweat from his forehead and felt great joy in his heart. The feeling of visible returns, with one effort and one reward, is truly delightful. In fact, most of the credit for being able to quickly improve his proficiency lies in his incredible understanding. He has already integrated all his martial arts skills in his mind. Now all he needs to do is go through it smoothly and let his hands and brain coordinate work. How can this speed not be fast? He began practicing the Diamond Lion Heart King Roar technique. After another cup of tea. Through practice, you become increasingly familiar with the Diamond Lion Heart King Roar technique, become more proficient, and successfully reach the level of perfection, 100%. The proficiency of this sound wave attack technique has also improved. Chen Xiaofan nodded in satisfaction and then prepared to leave the place. As for the Immortal technique. Sword flying, there's no need to practice it. It's just a practice when flying normally. However, before flying away, he wanted to test how powerful the attack that would not malfunction now was. Bang! Chen Xiaofan punched the earth with a single punch, and the land suddenly burst. The level of wind, clouds, lightning, and thunder burst out in full force. The earth collapsed on the spot, opening up a huge meteorite crater. As the night deepened, it was difficult to see how wide the crater was. However, just the loud bang and earth-shaking vibrations made Chen Xiaofan feel that its power far exceeded expectations. This punch is really too powerful, like an earth dragon flipping over, and even more like a fierce dragon exiting the river. The land and clear pond in front of me exploded into 100 Zhang wave, soaring into the sky with a grand momentum. It's truly spectacular to the extreme. Then he tried the Diamond Lion Heart King Roar technique again, and a terrifying sound wave exploded in the darkness. Qingtan and the land once again exploded into towering waves, with turbulent waves and rolling waves. Before they could splash onto the ground, they were shattered into nothingness by the rolling sound waves, and the smoke dissipated. At the same time, the surrounding land was fan-shaped and cracked open for 100 zhang, which was extremely terrifying. In a mountain stream not far away, there was a loud explosion of flesh, which seemed like the male lion couldn't withstand the sound and exploded into a mist of blood. Chen Xiaofan was both surprised and delighted in his heart. Undoubtedly, it is a normal performance. This power is simply not too powerful. It seems that this time I have improved my proficiency, I really got it right. After the experiment, Chen Xiaofan is also preparing to leave this place. With a swoosh, a sword light shot up into the sky, and Chen Xiaofan stood on top, his white clothes grinning and his black hair swaying in the wind, like a celestial being. This time, after flying for about a few hours, the rain gradually stopped and a hint of fish belly white appeared in the sky. Chen Xiaofan looked out from afar, and a faint red sun rose from the east, illuminating the entire world. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, a sound of fighting came from below. Chen Xiaofan frowned and instinctively looked down. Below is a huge birch forest, covering an extremely large area, and the sound of fighting comes from under the broad leaves. Through the gaps in the leaves, Chen Xiaofan saw a middle-aged man chasing a young man. The middle-aged man's swordsmanship is superb, extremely ruthless, and his moves are deadly. With a single sword strike, the silver snake danced with lightning, causing the young man to retreat step by step and become incredibly powerful. Chen Xiaofan was delighted in his heart and thought to himself, this swordsmanship looks so powerful, much stronger than the Hu family's swordsmanship. If he could comprehend it. Since he bumped into it, it's better not to take it, he immediately fell down. Chapter 6. One Sword Kill. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the birch forest, there were black lights and only the electric light evolved from sword light flickered incessantly, like thunder, mixed with the mournful cries of young people. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and resisted every move, his arms numb and unbearable. The opponent's swordsmanship is too strong, he is not an opponent at all and can only persevere. In the distance, Chen Xiaofan floated lightly on a tree, watching carefully. After a period of time. As you watch Huashan Ice Sword, you realize its essence. Through some thinking, you can extract the essence and understand the Ice Sword. Due to your incredible intelligence, you have continued to gain a deeper understanding of the Huashan Cold Ice Sword, successfully identifying its flaws and eliminating them. The power of the Cold Ice Sword has been enhanced, you continue to comprehend and deeply analyze the Huashan Cold Ice Sword. By combining it with the Cold Ice Divine Sword, you have successfully created a Cold Ice Divine Sword that does not require internal power to activate, and its power has been further enhanced. You are not satisfied with the current situation. You have integrated the Cold Ice Divine Sword with the Phoenix Sword technique and successfully created the Cold Ice Phoenix Sword, greatly increasing its power and reaching the peak level of the Great Master. What? The pinnacle of the Great Master. Listening to the voice in his mind, Chen Xiaofan was overjoyed and his face was flushed with joy. The peak-level sword technique power of the Great Master goes without saying much, and it doesn't require internal power. Now I have gained a lot. This incredible insight is truly powerful and boundless. At this point, the young man in the distance could no longer hold on. He roared softly, "Wang, don't you kill me. You won't be able to survive." Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man snorted coldly and said, "Humph, when I killed your parents back then, I forgot to also kill you, this little brat. As the saying goes, we must eradicate you today." Chen Xiaofan vaguely guessed that the middle-aged man was a great villain. Killing the other party's parents and now having to kill their son, this. The safe villain didn't run away. But it's none of his own business, he hangs high and is too lazy to meddle. That's really enough to keep up. Thinking about it, Chen Xiaofan sacrificed his long sword and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the middle-aged man's ear twitched and he turned to look over, angrily rebuking, "Who? Shua." He quickly rushed towards the tree where Chen Xiaofan was located like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, he turned to the young man and shouted loudly, "Little rabbit, I didn't expect you to call a helper. Alright, no one is allowed to leave today." He mistook Chen Xiaofan for a helper called by the youth and wanted to keep Chen Xiaofan here as well. In an instant, he came to the tree where Chen Xiaofan was standing. "Oh. I didn't want to meddle in my own business, but I didn't expect it to automatically come to me." Chen Xiaofan frowned and was speechless. To be fair, this middle-aged man's pursuit of that person has nothing to do with him, and he doesn't want to get involved. But since this person has already been killed, what else can he do? Let's just cut him off with one sword. However, this person happens to be able to give himself a try on the new sword technique that combines the proficiency of the Yufeng Lai sword technique. Thinking of this, Chen Xiaofan glanced down and snorted coldly, "You're here, you're dead." The middle-aged man was taken aback and then burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha. Even if you talk big, you're not afraid of losing your front teeth. I'm a formidable innate expert. You're just a 7-year-old child, can you kill me? You're not afraid of the wind blowing your tongue. Just a 7-year-old child, I'm afraid I can't even lift a piece of wood, and I still want to learn how to kill like others. My brain is not bad, is it? You're really blowing through the sky with cowhide. If you plant it, I'll let you know how to write death. The middle-aged man shouted again. The embarrassed young man in the distance hurriedly said, "Little brother, please don't come down. He is very powerful, especially the sword technique just now. His moves are sharp and incredibly powerful. Don't talk big, run fast, the farther you go, the better." "Oh. Then I really want to see if it's his swordsmanship or mine." Chen Xiaofan pursed his lips and jumped down the tree. The middle-aged man said coldly, "Kid, today next year will be your anniversary." Click. He made a direct move and slashed it with one sword. Suddenly, a sword light shot out, and the sharp Huashan cold ice sword danced the silver snake with an electric dance. The air roared and hunted, causing the air currents to oscillate. Chen Xiaofan didn't even look at it and slashed it with one sword. Boom! This sword opened and closed like a raging wind and rain, and the fierce attack came roaring in an instant. Puzzy. One move. Just one move. The figure of the middle-aged man collapsed in the darkness, with a big cut on his body, bleeding profusely. Your swordsmanship. Pop it. Before the middle-aged man could finish speaking, he collapsed straight to the ground, splashing dust. Fear still lingered on his face. He never expected that the opponent would be extremely powerful, and this sword was at least at the level of a master. At the level of a master, if you want to instantly kill him with a small innate ability, it can be called a dimensionality reduction blow. The young man in the distance was stunned, lost in thought, and in shock. Oh my God, what happened in front of him? A 7-year-old child, with one sword, killed Xiantian. Hush. I've been living in vain for the rest of my life. At the age of 7, the opponent killed an innate master. Isn't it that he has been practicing on dogs for over 20 years? The more he thought about it, the more surprised it became, and the more he thought about it, the more shocking it became. He suddenly felt an unbelievable sense of confusion in his heart, which was really hard to believe. After a moment, he quickly ran over and touched the body on the ground. After confirming that the middle-aged man was indeed dead, he took a deep breath and collapsed on the ground. I'm really dead. The big culprit who killed his parents is really dead. After a long time. He held up to the sky. Okay. Okay. Little brother, I'm not as good as you. Speaking of which, he suddenly felt a desire to make friends. To be honest, I am a disciple of the Borderless sect. You saved my life and also helped me eliminate the enemy who killed my parents. I would like to invite you to join our Borderless sect. Please do your best to cultivate you, Master. If Master finds out about today's situation, he will definitely do his best to cultivate you. Your future prospects are limitless. Youth is sincere. The other party met by chance, which should have caused trouble. Unexpectedly, a casual sword helped him so much. I immediately wanted to invite the other party to join my sect and let my master cultivate him to the fullest. Chen Xiaofan pondered for a moment and said, I have thanked you for your kindness, but I want to go to Wudang. Forget it. Ah. The young man was stunned. But let's not say anything anymore, everyone's aspirations are different. He said, brother, I'll treat you to a meal. Don't refuse. Okay then. Chen Xiaofan could only nod when he saw the other party's warm and hospitable demeanor, who insisted on being invited. Just thinking about it, helping others escape the danger of life and avenging their parents by killing them, it's hard to justify not repaying them. After a while, at a large restaurant, Chen Xiaofan looked at what was in front of him and his eyes lit up. Chapter 7. A Bitter Scorpion, Why Be Fearless? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the table was a dazzling array of dishes, steaming hot, with everything to choose from. Beside her, there were many beautiful maids dancing gracefully, with long snow-white legs draped in a thin layer of gauze, fragrant and unforgettable. Little brother, you were really stunned by me just now. To be honest, I, Zhang Long, have never seen anyone who can kill at the age of 7, and the ones he killed were innate experts. You surprised me so much. During the banquet, Zhang Long clasped his fists and said, full of admiration. He said again, I, Zhang Long, am a grateful person. Brother, you are still young and cannot go to the brothel to play. But you can still appreciate these dancing beauties. I hope you don't mind, little brother. Chen Xiaofan shook his head. 7 years old. My real age is similar to yours, right? He traveled at the age of 18, but his body was only 7 years old. But the other party is right to say that. How can one go to the brothel when they are 7 years old and haven't grown up yet? After a burst of extravagance, Zhang Long gave Chen Xiaofan 300 taels of silver as a gift for his journey to Wudang Mountain. At the same time, he also gave him 10 miles along the way, but he couldn't bear to leave. You know, 300 taels of silver is enough for an ordinary family to purchase a property and marry a beautiful wife. Chen Xiaofan didn't refuse either, he continued. At this moment, before their eyes was a towering mountain, towering and majestic, like a pillar of heaven. Upon arriving here, Zhang Long took a cold breath and said with some fear, sending you 1,000 miles will require a farewell. I won't send you any more. However, brother, I have to warn you that this mountain is called the Kushua mountain range, and there are cannibal scorpions causing trouble inside. The cannibal scorpions are huge in size, 3 meters long, and pose a threat to the people in this area. So far, more than 1,000 people have died at their hands, and my senior brothers have all lost their lives here. Do you want to take a detour? To be honest, the cannibal scorpion is too scary, so he suggested that Chen Xiaofan take a detour. Man-eating scorpions. Chen Xiaofan smiled and said lightly, just a scorpion, why are you so afraid? I have to take a detour whenever I come across something, how shameless am I? It's like being afraid of this scorpion. Since the little brother doesn't want it, then I'll be with you. Even if we really encounter that scorpion, we'll have a better chance of winning. Zhang Long said sincerely, pulling out his sword from his waist and preparing for battle at any time. He anticipated to some extent that this mountain covers a too large area. If we take a detour, it will take at least 2 more days, so it's reasonable for the little brother not to want it. However, how could such a terrifying cannibalistic scorpion leave his little brother alone? Okay, I've made a deal with you, brother. Chen Xiaofan couldn't help but feel a little moved. Zhang Long is a good person, a blue star who has been scheming in his past life. It's really difficult to encounter someone like him. He just saw that this mountain is really vast and boundless, far and wide. Even if flying with a sword, one will feel physically exhausted and need to find a place to rest halfway, making it difficult to fly over with all one's might. Most importantly, he wanted to directly kill the scorpion. Not only am I not afraid of you, I will also kill you. The two of them began to climb the mountain. It's still easy to walk ahead. There are narrow paths that hunters have stepped on, but as they go deeper, they become increasingly sparse. It seems that hunters only dare to hit shallow areas and dare not go deep. Along the way, through Zhang Long's introduction, Chen Xiaofan learned that there used to be hunters who dared to go deep, but later on, 7 or 8 of them died, and no one had the courage anymore, even groups of hunters dared not. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it takes 2 days to walk. In the past 2 days, Zhang Long has been walking and stopping. When he was hungry, he took out some dry food and shared it with Chen Xiaofan. The two of them had a happy time along the way. On the 3rd evening, as he walked to a stream, Zhang Long discovered a suspected trace of a scorpion. Brother, look at it. There's a pool of blood. I didn't expect us to walk so carefully, but we still hit a scorpion. Zhang Long's face tingled and he pointed to a large ditch not far ahead, trembling all over as he said. Chen Xiaofan glanced at him and said indifferently, don't be afraid. Since you've touched him, you can just strike him with one sword. Did you kill this scorpion with one sword? Zhang Long was surprised. It turns out that the young brother can still kill this scorpion. I heard that this scorpion has the cultivation of a great master in the later stage. Little brother, he. Hiss. Zhang Long seems to have found something, quickly cover his mouth. 7-year-old master, my goodness. Chen Xiaofan walked towards the big ditch with his hands on his back, and soon arrived at the pool of blood. The blood stains are still wet, it seems very likely to be nearby. After careful consideration, he drew his sword and continued walking forward. Sure enough, as I flipped through this big ditch, in the bushes ahead, I suddenly saw a pitch-black, glowing poisonous thorn. It's the venomous thorn on the scorpion's tail. Zhang Long recognized it at a glance and felt a chill in his heart. Back then, the eldest senior brother in his sect came over and was stabbed by the scorpion's venomous sting on the spot, causing a deep chill. This matter has already left a shadow on him. Now, as soon as he saw this venomous thorn, he couldn't help but tremble all over, his hands and feet were weak and almost collapsed to sit down. Chen Xiaofan gave him a hand and said, don't be afraid, follow me. Zhang Long finally regained his senses, took a deep breath, and followed him forward. Getting closer, I saw that there seemed to be something underneath the scorpion, blood dripping profusely. Upon closer inspection, Zhang Long's face suddenly changed drastically. This scorpion is nibbling on a human leg, and the sound of a clear and crisp click comes from the sound of bones being bitten open. Looking further, under the scorpion lay a man in black lying on his back. His clothes were already shattered, his eyes turned white, and there was a hole pierced by a poisonous thorn in his head. It seemed that he had been dead for a long time. Chen Xiaofan said calmly, don't be afraid, let me kill it with one sword. Chapter 8. Scorpion Slaying, Harvest Full. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After speaking, Chen Xiaofan asked Zhang Long to find a place to hide and face the scorpion alone. Isn't this cannibal scorpion very powerful, and I don't know if it can catch its own sword. As a fusion of two super sword techniques, the power of the Cold Ice Fengi Divine Sword is bound to skyrocket. It depends on whether this cannibal scorpion is alive or not. In a moment, Chen Xiaofan walked up to the cannibal scorpion. Due to the fact that the cannibal scorpion was facing away from him, his eyes did not see him, and he was fully focused on enjoying the feast, but for a moment he did not notice anyone behind him. Until suddenly a human voice came from behind. "Hey, that scorpion, have you eaten enough?" The cannibal scorpion paused and turned to look over. I saw a 7 or 8-year-old human child holding a sword in his hand, his face calm and composed, as if his scorpion was just a reptile to him. Suddenly, the cannibal scorpion became angry. He was such a human-like little doll. Coincidentally, he was also tired of eating this rough meat middle-aged man. It would be great to have a fresh boy. Shoo. Time flies, the cannibal scorpion directly took action. Quickly turning around, the sharp venomous spikes on the tail were like sharp arrows, effortlessly piercing through the air with a grinning sound, piercing towards Chen Xiaofan. At the same time, with both claws together, the terrifying pliers opened and rushed forward like a domineering crab, directly taking Chen Xiaofan's head. The sharp barbs on the pliers are sharper than the venomous ones, like a pair of pliers, capable of easily killing someone who is not alive. The poison stinger targets Chen Xiaofan's heart, while the pliers are his head. The scorpion does not believe that under dual attacks, this human child can survive. Behind a large stone, Zhang Long's heart lifted up to his throat, causing Chen Xiaofan to sweat. Just as he was about to shout out, "Brother, be careful." Chen Xiaofan looked calm and slowly drew his sword out of his sheath. The mountain breeze blew his black hair, his white clothes beating snow, swaying like a fairy, as if he had no interest in the attack of cannibal scorpions. In an instant, the attack of the cannibal scorpion arrived as promised. Click. The sound of sharp weapons shattering the flesh echoed through the mountains and forests. The figures of Chen Xiaofan and the cannibal scorpion intertwined as they passed by. In the thick smoke, Zhang Long was stunned. A figure in white clothes is as free and unrestrained as a banished fairy in the sky, slowly retracting its sword into its sheath, with graceful movements and flowing clouds and water. And the cannibal scorpion seemed to be frozen in place, its massive body standing on the ground, frozen in a daze. After about a breath. Puzzy. The body of the cannibal scorpion exploded and turned into two halves. Blood flowed backwards from the rupture, pouring down the ground. In the end, he fell to the ground and became two pieces of corpses. For a moment, Zhang Long felt as if he was dreaming, even though the ground beneath his feet was shaking with the impact of the scorpion falling to the ground, he still couldn't believe that this scene was true. This terrifying cannibal scorpion, is that all? Killed. After waking up, he quickly ran to Chen Xiaofan and groped his body up and down until he was sure he wasn't injured before saying, "Oh my. Oh my. I can't believe it, I really can't believe it." A 7-year-old child could have killed countless terrifying cannibalistic scorpions with just one sword. Do you want to be so powerful? He's only 7 years old. He is really a 7-year-old master. At first, Zhang Long thought he must have guessed wrong earlier. There was no 7-year-old master, but now he can only feel the buzzing sound of brain melon seeds. It's really there, right in front of him. Brother Zhang, don't be fooled. These scales can be cast into armor, and flesh and blood can be sold for money. Backstabbing can be used as a hidden weapon, or as a dagger, which are all good choices. In a daze, he heard Chen Xiaofan speaking. Zhang Long was taken aback and quickly said, "Yes. Yes." He quickly drew his sword and broke down the cannibal scorpion. After a moment, several scales, 2 sharp pliers, 1 venomous thorn, and a multitude of others were neatly arranged in front of Chen Xiaofan. "Brother, I didn't contribute, all these gains are yours," Zhang Long said. "There's too much, I can't finish it. I'll pick out a complete scale, and you can find a pawn shop to sell the rest. If you have time later, send the silver to Wudang Mountain and sell it as much as you want. By the way, I'll also take the poison sting." Speaking, Chen Xiaofan picked up the poisonous thorn. The sharp edge of this poisonous thorn is cold and shining with black light. You can tell at a glance that it is extremely poisonous. If you use it as a hidden weapon, you will be surprised and die with just one strike. In fact, he also wants to take all these things away, but this is the world of martial arts, not fantasy. There is no storage bag, storage ring, or anything like that. He can't finish it at all. Zhang Long is a person who knows how to repay kindness. He was asked to sell it for money and send it to Wudang. I don't expect him to do anything outrageous. Thinking about it, Chen Xiaofan picked a complete scale, placed it on his chest, covered it with clothes, and used it as armor. "Thank you very much for your trust, little brother. But you don't know, my family runs a pawn shop, and I can convert these things into cash for you now." Zhang Long arched his hand, then took out a cloth bag and flipped it up, revealing a dozen or so silver bills. "Brother, there are a total of 3,000 taels, please keep them." He handed the silver bill to Chen Xiaofan. Chen Xiaofan was overjoyed and took it and put it in his pocket. "I didn't expect it to be worth so much money. 3,000 taels of silver is not a small amount, basically enough to open a small shop and become a boss. I didn't expect Zhang Long's family to be so wealthy." Through his understanding of the world's prices in his mind, he found that Zhang Long had not deceived himself, and even gave himself an extra 200 taels, rounding up the whole number. Chen Xiaofan was lost in thought, and Zhang Long took out a large cloth bag and packed it. "This scorpion is really too big." Zhang Long kept the bag bulging all the time, and there were still some visceral fragments left on the ground. Zhang Long had no choice but to kick it in his arms. Then he carried the cloth bag onto his back, and the huge weight bent his waist down. "Brother, it's so heavy," he laughed. Chen Xiaofan said, "Yes, I have gained a lot. If it weren't for Zhang Long, I would probably be exhausted and unable to take these things away." Then Zhang Long Yuan left. "This little brother has the ability to kill scorpions, he will only get in the way here." Chen Xiaofan continued to move forward alone. 2 days later, I successfully walked out of this mountain range. When he arrived at the foot of the mountain, Chen Xiaofan suddenly noticed something and turned around to look. He didn't care about it himself, but when he saw that thing, he was pleasantly surprised. Chapter 9. Cave, picking up a bunch of good goods for nothing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not far from Chen Xiaofan, there is a cave that is dark and occasionally emits a mysterious aura. This is already the back of the mountain range, and up there is a towering cliff that cannot be climbed. If he had not flown with his sword just now, he would not have found the way down. However, beneath this cliff, he discovered a cave. He didn't care about it himself because it was too normal to have a cave in the mountain, but on second thought, the cliff. A cave. Will there be any adventures? As a traveler, Chen Xiaofan knows that there have been countless stories about this kind of plot in his past life. Whenever a cliff appears, there will inevitably be a cave, and if a cave appears, there will definitely be an adventure inside. Looking sideways, it was already late. Go inside and see if you have any adventures. Even if not, I can still sleep peacefully inside. Chen Xiaofan murmured to himself and then went straight into the cave. In the dimly lit cave, only the afterglow of the setting sun shone in, creating a golden hue. However, as we walked inside, it disappeared. In front of us was a gloomy scene, with a smell of blood in the air. The more he walked inside, the colder the air became, but the cave was very large, and Chen Xiaofan felt like he was walking inside a long dragon. Not long after, Chen Xiaofan reached the deepest point and lit the torch he carried with him. Upon inspection, he saw that this seemed to be the nest of the cannibal scorpion he had just carried. Many dead people had no bones or flesh left, lying haphazardly on the ground. Beside them were scattered weapons and some old silver bills, covered in dust. These skeletons died the same way, with a huge hole on the skull that looked like it was pierced by scorpion venom. "Don't come over. Don't come over." Just as Chen Xiaofan was looking around, he suddenly heard a mournful scream coming from even deeper. He was slightly taken aback before realizing that there was a stone gate not far away, and behind it seemed to be the location of a room. Chen Xiaofan first picked up all the silver bills on the ground and put them in his pocket. These silver bills are worth thousands of denominations, while the smaller ones range from 200 to 300. It seems that these bones were also wealthy during their lifetime. After picking them up, the total amount is actually over 6,000 taels. "White picking makes me happy," Chen Xiaofan smiled. Although these silver bills have a lot of dust, they can still be exchanged for real gold and silver in the bank after being wiped. Who doesn't like them? Then, Chen Xiaofan walked towards the stone gate. "Don't come over. Don't come over." The people inside seemed to sense the approaching danger and their cries grew louder. Chen Xiaofan chose to ignore and walked straight over. Arriving at the door, he swung his sword and a cold light flashed through. With a loud bang, the stone gate split in half and collapsed. Chen Xiaofan glanced sideways and realized that inside was a middle-aged man in rags and disheveled hair. There are still many skeletons nearby, just like outside, with many silver bills scattered on the ground, as well as several weapons and herbs. "Who are you and why are you here?" Chen Xiaofan looked at the man and whispered. Unexpectedly, the man just repeated, "Don't come over. Don't come over. Besides that, there's nothing else." Chen Xiaofan shook his head. It seemed that this person had gone crazy. He inspected the cave and found that the bones here were richer than the outside, and many of the relics on the bones were quite rich. The remaining weapons on his body had been buried here for an unknown amount of time, but still braved the cold light and were exceptionally sharp. Other herbs, pills, ointments are everywhere. There are even a few martial arts secret books. From the cover, it seems to be swordsmanship, boxing, swordsmanship. Chen Xiaofan first picked up the silver banknotes on the ground, and when he added them up, it turned out to be tens of thousands of taels. He suppressed his excitement and began to collect martial arts secrets. The Tiangang sword technique is not to be passed on to outsiders. Those who easily pass it on to outsiders will be considered as violating sect rules and should be beheaded. Upon casually flipping through a martial arts book, Chen Xiaofan couldn't help but feel both surprised and delighted. As expected, the cave under the cliff immediately had martial arts that were not passed down to the public. Let's look at the others. The Heavenly Gang saber technique is not passed down to outsiders. Those who easily pass it on to outsiders will be considered as violating sect rules and should be beheaded. Tiangang fist is not passed on to outsiders. Those who easily pass it on to outsiders will be considered as violating sect rules and should. On the first page of almost every book, the cultivation outline, there is a passage that records a strong killing aura, with an invincible aura emanating between the lines. Chen Xiaofan ignored the madman beside him and picked up the weapons on the ground, as well as the herbal pills and ointments. He then sat down cross-legged and began to practice these martial arts. After a stick of incense. Due to your examination of the Tiangang sword technique, you have come to understand its essence, and then analyze the technique of starting force to comprehend the Tiangang shadowless sword. Half an hour later. Due to your examination of the Tiangang sword technique, you have come to understand its essence, successfully deciphered its techniques, and comprehended the Tiangang flame blade. 1 hour later. Due to your examination of Tiangang fist, you have come to understand its essence, successfully deciphered its techniques, and comprehended Tiangang Kaishan Fist. 3 hours later. Due to your examination of the Heavenly Gang Shadowless Legs, you have come to understand their essence and comprehend the Heavenly Gang Shadowless Divine Legs. By the second half of the night, Chen Xiaofan slowly opened his eyes, his face full of spring breeze. I have learned all the martial arts on the ground, without exception, and have reached the level of perfection. Turning his head, the madman had somehow calmed down and curled up in the corner trembling. I don't know what the efficacy of this pill is. Chen Xiaofan didn't care too much about madness. He took out a newly picked pill, wiped off the dust, and put it in his mouth. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound coming from within the body. Oh! In just a moment, the medicinal effect surprised and delighted Chen Xiaofan. Chapter 10. Surprise comes suddenly, unexpectedly inserting Willows and Willows into shadows. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Xiaofan was pleasantly surprised to find that after only 1 second of swallowing this pill, the exhaustion in his body that had been going on for days was swept away. You should know that after several consecutive days of traveling, crossing such a large mountain range, although sometimes it's a sword flying midway, sword flying consumes more energy. I didn't expect that with just this one pill, my energy will be fully restored, and my whole life will be full of vitality, returning to its peak state. The original fatigue and drowsiness have all disappeared. I didn't expect this pill to have such a great effect. Sure enough, the cave under the cliff is bound to have an adventure. Chen Xiaofan is overjoyed by his wisdom. Subsequently, he saved the remaining pills and would take one whenever he ran out of energy next time. At this moment, the madman suddenly grabbed a sword and raised his hand, chopping wildly on the wall. Click. 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 He struck the wall with one sword after another, sparks shooting up all over. I'll kill you. Scorpion. I'll kill you, he cursed wildly while chopping. Chen Xiaofan shook his head as he looked at it. Alas, this person is really pitiful. For no reason, chopping a scorpion here must be a hallucination. However, judging from this person's swordsmanship, there is a clear and precise approach, with each sword being swung with a subtle burst of brilliance, which looks quite exquisite. At this moment, a surprise appeared. As you watched the Jiansong 5 Elements sword, you grasped its essence. After a brief thought, you refined its essence and comprehended the Jiansong Yulong sword. Oh! Surprises sometimes come so suddenly, unintentionally inserting Willows into the shade. Chen Xiaofan was overjoyed and then continued to watch. Due to your second viewing of the Jiansong 5 Elements sword and the Jieha Jiansong Yu Dragon sword, you created the Lightning Jiansong Yu Dragon sword. Due to your third viewing of the Tsang 5 Elements sword, Jieha Lightning and Sanyo Dragon sword, you have created the authentic 5 Thunder Divine sword. Due to your fourth attempt, you created the Thunder 9 Sky Divine sword. You are unwilling to accept the current situation and continue to think deeply. You have successfully discovered the flaws in the Jiansong 5 Elements sword. You have eliminated the flaws in the Thunder 9 Sky Divine sword, and the power of the Thunder 9 Sky Divine sword has greatly increased, reaching the peak of the Great Master. You continue to think deeply and successfully integrate the Dian Kanju Dragon sword with the Cold Ice Fenyi Divine sword, creating a new sword technique that does not require internal power. The Beacon Tower Divine sword. Chen Xiaofan was pleasantly surprised. This feels like stacking buffs, stacking martial arts layer by layer, and the power skyrockets. If we continue to add layer by layer like this, we will eventually have to create an unparalleled masterpiece. The more I think about it, the more surprised Chen Xiaofan is. He has an incredible understanding and never deceives me. Suddenly, the lunatic seemed tired and stopped, but still shouted loudly, "Scorpion, don't move, I'll kill you." Chen Xiaofan couldn't help but sigh. Crazy, completely insane. However, no matter what, if you have benefited from this person, why not save him? It's not your own pill anyway. Chen Xiaofan died and became a living horse doctor. He took out a pill and with a gentle flick of his fingertip, the pill shot towards the person. Ah! The person was still shouting, and the pill entered his mouth and throat. He suddenly closed his mouth and then collapsed on the ground with a thud, gradually becoming motionless. Chen Xiaofan doesn't know if this medicine can actually cure this person, but the effect of this pill is unparalleled, so it should have some effect. If you can, just give a hand. If you can't help, then you're powerless. After about a cup of tea, the person woke up leisurely, looked around, and suddenly burst into tears of joy. He suddenly sighed and said, I'm not dead, I'm not dead. Chen Xiaofan said, I saved you. Who are you and why are you here? A moment later, Chen Xiaofan learned that this person was originally from the Tiangang sect, named Du Bingzhao. A few months ago, a disciple of their sect passed by this mountain range and unfortunately died in the mouth of the cannibal scorpion. The leader was extremely angry and sent him to lead a team to eliminate the cannibal scorpion. As a result, it turned out like this. I see. Chen Xiaofan nodded. So many senior brothers have all died in battle, but that scorpion lives well. I feel guilty to the leader. I might as well die and forget me. Du Bingzhao was heartbroken and rushed towards the wall, ashamed to commit suicide. Chen Xiaofan said calmly, the scorpion has already died. What? Du Bingzhao trembled all over and froze. I'll say it again, the scorpion is already dead, Chen Xiaofan repeated. Du Bingzhao turned his head in disbelief and stared at him blankly. After a while, he opened his mouth and trembled, saying, Who? Who killed him? I. Chen Xiaofan pointed to the sword in his hand. Du Bingzhao's body stiffened and he was greatly shocked. You. Well. Judging from your appearance, you should only be around 7 or 8 years old. Can you really kill that cannibal scorpion? You should know that all the people I brought with me have died in battle, without exception, they are all innate peak experts. Chen Xiaofan interrupted directly and said lightly, take a look at this. A sharp and piercing poisonous thorn appeared in front of Du Bingzhao, emitting a piercing cold light. Du Bing let out a loud bang on his forehead, as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. He recognizes this thing. This is the venomous thorn on the body of the cannibal scorpion. He can't forget it even if he were a ghost. It was this venomous thorn that caused all the Martial brothers to die on that day, and the extremely bloody scene on that day scared him crazy on the spot. He fell to the ground with a loud splash, foaming at the mouth, and then became unconscious. Chen Xiaofan unbuttoned his shirt and showed him the armor on his chest. I believe it, I believe it. Du Bingzhao is convinced. I'm really sorry. I didn't believe it just now, but it was really shocking. A 7-year-old child actually killed a master-level cannibal scorpion with his own strength. Oh my goodness, don't tell me, you're the master. A 7-year-old master, if you say it out loud, it will make the world tremble. Du Bingzhao trembled all over and said in an extremely shocking voice. Chen Xiaofan did not speak up. He only cultivates martial arts that are the pinnacle of the power of a great master. His understanding of the heavens is too strong, and he does not need his own cultivation or internal power. He can directly use this level of martial arts, which is really extreme. It is normal for others to mistake his cultivation as a great master. One day when you obtain a martial arts mental skill, you can improve your cultivation. Bang! Du Bingzhao clenched his fists and arched his hands, saying, May I ask your name, brother? Chen Xiaofan said lightly. Brother, your name is like thunder piercing through your ears. To be honest, I would like to invite you to join our Tiangang sect. With your joining, our Tiangang sect will surely rise, Xiong. No need, Chen Xiaofan interrupted, I already have a candidate for apprenticeship, Wudang, Zhang. Du Bingzhou felt a bit choked. Yes, the 7-year-old great master, such a talented and stunning person, how could he look up to them? I'm at Xiamenglang, so I'll change my tone. I invite you to visit our Tiangang gate so that I can repay you and clean up the dust for you. Du Bingzhou changed his tone. That's okay, but your Tiangang gate is on the way to Wudang, right? If it's not, I won't go, Chen Xiaofan thought for a moment and said. By the way, when we leave the cave tomorrow morning, we'll be at Tiangang gate after walking 20 miles. It's on the way. Du Bingzhou said sincerely. Chen Xiaofan nodded and said, that's just right. Silent all night, the two of them fell asleep. The next day, as soon as they walked out of the cave, a sharp black object suddenly came crashing towards Du Bingzhou's face door.